James Bond has never been just one man. He has always been an idea. Across more than 6 decades, Bond has evolved with the world around him. In the 1960s, Sean Connery embodied post-war confidence and dominance. Roger Moore softened the edges with charm and humor during an era that wanted escapism. Timothy Dalton stripped Bond down to his cold, dangerous core, while Pierce Brosnan brought back glossy sophistication for the late 90s blockbuster age. Then came Daniel Craig, who completely redefined the character, turning Bond into a bruised, emotionally scarred survivor struggling with loyalty, identity, and mortality. Every Bond reflects the anxieties, fantasies, and expectations of his time. Now, with Craig's era officially closed, the franchise stands at another crossroads. The next James Bond cannot simply imitate what came before. He has to honor the legacy while pushing the character forward. The tuxedo may stay the same, but the man wearing it must evolve once again. So today, we are breaking down 10 actors who could realistically make the perfect next James Bond. Dan Stevens is one of the most fascinating dark horse contenders. At first glance, he carries the polished, upper-class British look that Bond traditionally demands. But Stevens' real strength lies in unpredictability. Performances in Legion and The Guest prove that he can flip a switch from charming to deeply unsettling without warning. A Dan Stevens Bond would feel psychologically intense. This would be a version of 007 who wins battles in the mind before pulling a trigger. Less about brute force and more about manipulation, observation, and intelligence. He would be the kind of Bond who makes you uneasy, even when he is standing still. For a franchise looking to lean into tension rather than spectacle, Stevens would be a daring but smart choice. James Norton feels like a callback to classic literary Bond. In McMafia, Norton already operated in a world of money, corruption, power, and moral compromise. He has the kind of quiet authority that makes people listen when he speaks. He does not need to shout. He does not need to dominate physically. His danger comes from restraint. Norton's Bond would be elegant, analytical, and deeply strategic. A man who knows when to talk and when to act. This would be a Bond who feels closer to Ian Fleming's original vision, a professional spy navigating a dangerous world with calculated precision. Regé-Jean Page represents the future-facing Bond. From the moment he broke out, Page has carried undeniable star power. He has natural charisma that does not feel forced. When he enters a room, attention follows. That is an essential Bond trait. His Bond would lean heavily into sophistication and global appeal. This would be a 007 who feels at home anywhere in the world. A Bond who understands diplomacy, culture, and power structures just as well as combat. Page could bring glamour back to the franchise while still grounding the character in confidence and intensity. For a new generation, he would feel fresh, relevant, and magnetic. Aaron Taylor Johnson feels like controlled chaos. Physically, he is lean, fast, and believable in action-heavy roles. Emotionally, he has proven capable of playing volatile, unpredictable characters. Performances in Bullet Train and Nocturnal Animals show that he can balance charm with genuine menace. His Bond would feel restless and dangerous. Not always calm. Not always in control. This would be a Bond shaped by impulse and reaction. A man who adapts on the fly and survives through speed and instinct. In a more chaotic geopolitical world, that version of Bond could feel extremely relevant. Richard Madden brings emotional weight. In Bodyguard, Madden showed exactly why he belongs in Bond conversations. His performance balanced professionalism with internal collapse. You could see the stress, the fear, and the moral conflict behind his eyes. Madden's Bond would feel human, a man constantly questioning his role and his loyalty. This would be a Bond who feels the cost of every decision. After Craig's emotionally driven era, Madden could continue that legacy while still making the role his own. Henry Cavill represents the return to tradition. He has the physical presence, the classical good looks, and the unmistakable British identity that defined early Bond eras. Roles in The Man from UNCLE and Mission Impossible Fallout proved that he understands spy cinema perfectly. Cavill's Bond would be confident, composed, and deadly. Tailored suits, effortless authority, no unnecessary chaos. At the same time, his age and experience allow him to bring gravitas rather than arrogance. Cavill would feel like Bond rediscovered, not rebooted. Idris Elba remains one of the most compelling Bond discussions of all time. He commands attention without trying. His voice, posture, and presence alone communicate authority. Through Luther, Elba proved that he thrives in morally complex roles. His Bond would be seasoned, weary, and formidable. This would be a 007 who has seen too much and survived anyway. Even if timing makes his casting unlikely, Elba symbolizes how Bond can evolve without losing its soul. He would reframe the character with strength, intelligence, and undeniable credibility. Tom Hardy would deliver the most brutal Bond on this list. This would not be a smooth, charming spy. This would be a man shaped by violence and survival. Hardy's Bond would lean heavily into physicality and psychological damage. Every fight would feel desperate. Every decision would feel heavy. This would be Bond stripped of glamour and pushed to his limits. It would be divisive, but it would also be unforgettable. Tom Hiddleston feels almost tailor-made for the role. The Night Manager already showcased his Bond credentials. He navigated luxury, espionage, deception, and danger with effortless control. Hiddleston understands duality. He can be charming and threatening in the same breath. His Bond would blend intelligence with elegance. A strategist rather than a brawler. A man who wins battles before they begin. If the franchise wants to restore classic Bond sophistication without losing modern depth, Hiddleston is one of the safest and strongest choices. Henry Golding represents Bond's next evolution. He carries confidence without arrogance and charm without excess. Golding's performances show that he can exist comfortably in both high society glamour and grounded realism. His Bond would feel global, adaptable, and contemporary. A man shaped by international experience rather than British insularity. Golding could expand Bond's identity while preserving its core. He would not replace what Bond has been. He would grow it. So there you have it. 10 actors. 10 very different futures for James Bond. The next 007 does not need to copy Daniel Craig. He does not need to erase the past. He simply needs to understand what Bond represents in this moment. Now it is your turn. Who do you think should wear the tuxedo next? Do you want elegance? Do you want grit? Or do you want something entirely new? Let us know your pick in the comments. Bond may change.